The cantina fell silent as Commander Vexthul's scarred carapace clicked against his chair. The veteran Zephyrian's four eyes dimmed to a dull amber as he stared into his quantum ale. Memories surfacing like debris from a shattered starship. "You younglings think you know war," he rasped, his translator struggling with the emotion in his voice. "You've never faced humans." Lieutenant Creesa, fresh from the academy, leaned forward eagerly. Her pristine uniform marked her as untested, unblooded. "Surely the stories are exaggerated, Commander. Humans are just another species. Bipedal mammals with rudimentary technology." Vexthul's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter, but held no humor. "I thought the same once. Before Kepler 442b. The other officers around the table exchanged glances. Everyone in the Galactic Defense Fleet knew about Kepler 442b, the colony that wasn't supposed to exist, defended by forces that shouldn't have won. "We outnumbered them 50-1, Vexthul continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "Our ships were faster, our weapons more advanced, our tactics proven across 1,000 campaigns. The humans had been in space for less than 2 centuries. They were primitives with fusion drives and kinetic weapons." He took a long drink, the bitter liquid doing nothing to wash away the taste of defeat that still lingered after 15 years. "The first thing you must understand about humans is that they don't fight like civilized beings. Every other species in the galaxy follows the codes of engagement. Protect civilians, minimize collateral damage, accept surrender when defeat is inevitable. Humans fight like cornered predators." Lieutenant Creesa shifted uncomfortably. "What do you mean, sir?" "Their colony had 17 million civilians, men, women, children. When our fleet arrived and demanded surrender, they laughed. Actually laughed over open communications. Then they did something that still haunts my sleep cycles." Vexthul's claws scraped against the table's surface, leaving deep gouges in the metal. "They evacuated their civilians, yes, but not to safety bunkers or off-world transports. They put them in mining ships, cargo haulers, anything that could break orbit. Then they aimed these vessels directly at our fleet formation." The cantina had grown deathly quiet. Even the serving drones had ceased their movements. "At first we thought it was a desperate evacuation attempt. We held fire, we're not monsters. But as the civilian ships closed distance, we realized the truth. Each vessel was packed with mining explosives, reactor cores set to overload, industrial equipment jury-rigged into weapons. The humans had turned their own civilians into guided missiles." Captain Mordak, a grizzled hegemony veteran, hissed in disbelief. "That's impossible. No species would sacrifice their own people so readily." "You still don't understand." Vexthul's eyes blazed. "They didn't sacrifice their civilians. The ships were automated, piloted by humans who volunteered to guide them manually to ensure accuracy. 3,000 humans died in those impacts, but they took out half our vanguard fleet." He stood abruptly, pacing to the viewport where stars wheeled slowly past. But that was just the opening move. What came next? What came next was warfare like nothing in our tactical manuals. The commander's reflection in the transparisteel showed the scars that crossed his face, burns from plasma fire that should have killed him. The human defense fleet emerged from behind their moon, using its gravity well to accelerate beyond what should have been possible. Their ships were falling apart, held together with what they called space tape and stubbornness. But every single vessel fought like it was crewed by madmen. Vexthul turned back to his audience, noting how they hung on every word despite themselves. They used their own damaged ships as weapons. When a human vessel's reactor was failing, instead of ejecting the crew, they'd ram it into our formations. When their weapons ran dry, they'd fire debris, chunks of metal, spent fuel cells, even frozen waste from their life support systems. One of their frigates actually fired its own crew quarters at us after the occupants had evacuated to the engine room. Lieutenant Creesa looked sick. How did they coordinate such chaos? That's the terrifying part, they didn't. Each human ship captain made these decisions independently. It wasn't ordered madness. It was instinctive, cultural. They have a saying, death before dishonor. But for humans, dishonor includes letting their enemies live when they could take them down too. The commander returned to his seat, suddenly looking every one of his 60 standard years. We broke them eventually. Sheer numbers and superior technology won out. But it cost us 37 ships and nearly 200,000 casualties, fighting a force we outnumbered 50-1. The human colony lasted 18 hours. He raised his quantum-mail in a mock toast. 18 hours. They held us off for 18 hours with nothing but fury and refusal to accept the inevitable. When we finally reached the planet's surface, the last human commander, a female barely out of her species, adolescence triggered, a geological charge that collapsed the entire northern continent rather than let us take their industrial facilities intact. The silence stretched until Captain Mordak finally spoke. Where are they now? The humans? Vexthul's mandibles clicked once more, this time with something approaching respect. Scattered across 24 star systems breeding like a virus. The Galactic Council classified them as a Tier 2 threat species and established a 50 light-year exclusion zone around their core worlds. The last intelligence report suggests they've developed faster-than-light communication and are building ships twice the size of anything we've seen before. He finished his drink and stood to leave. My advice, younglings, pray to whatever gods you worship that we never meet them in open war again, because next time they won't just be defending a single colony. As the veteran commander left the cantina, Lieutenant Kreesa stared out at the stars with new understanding. Somewhere out there, beyond the comfortable borders of known space, humans were watching the galaxy with eyes that held no concept of acceptable losses, and they were learning